Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Ted Harris. I'm with the Pennsylvania Petroleum Association. I would like to welcome you to our monthly webinar series, which normally takes place the first Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m. Before we get started today, just a couple quick housekeeping items from my end. All of our attendees that are joining us this morning are going to be on mute. With that being said, we do encourage you to ask questions if you have questions for our presenter. And the way you could do that is by using the question feature and go to webinar. Please type in your questions, and what we'll do once we get to the end of the presentation today, I will moderate those questions to John. And if for some reason we don't get to your question, or if it's something that's specific to your company, what I can absolutely do is connect you after the fact, and we'll get you an answer. So with that being said, I think we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to give a quick introduction to John, and then I'll pass it off. So our presenter today is Jonathan Gilbert. John is the Director of E-commerce and Partner Development for QualPay. QualPay is a member of the Pennsylvania Petroleum Association. We recently endorsed their firm as a preferred vendor for payment processing to our membership. The PPA actually just recently switched all of our processing and payment related services to QualPay in the last couple of months here, and that was a positive experience. So with that being said, John is very qualified to speak on what's happening within the industry as it relates to the state of union of payments, and he's going to go into a little more details on how to make sure you're receiving the best possible rates on your payment acceptance. So John, I'll pass it off to you.
Thank you, Ted. All right, so I'm going to turn off my my cam in a second, but so this presentation is about the state of the union of payments and how you can leverage technology to drive down costs. So a couple of things I'm going to do is really break down the specifics of the four main areas where fuel marketers get charged for credit card processing and what you can do in order to improve the rates that you get. And I'm going to do this through a story of showing you two examples of merchants, one who does it right and one who doesn't. And then we're going to see kind of the delta that rises, from a productivity standpoint, but as well as a cost standpoint. So again, I'm John Gilbert. I am the Director of E-commerce and Partner Development at QualPay. So technology changes over time, right? The same computer that used to take up an entire room can now be fit into your hand. I actually think that the technology that was in this room could actually probably have been in a calculator. But as you can see here, it doesn't take a whole lot of time for technology to change over generations. Let's just look at the difference between the video games that I used to play and the video games my nephew used to play. So I had my nephew over for my birthday, or his birthday, about a month ago, and I wanted to show him what I used to play when I was 11. So we played Tecmo Super Bowl starring Bo Jackson. And about 5 minutes into the game, he was like, "Hey, why can't I trade players? Why can't I change the colors of my jerseys? Why can't I play with anybody else?" So he's used to the near real life game of Madden 20. And so, it was just a couple of years ago, I felt like I was playing Tecmo Super Bowl, but there's been a huge world of difference. And there's actually been these monumental changes in payment technology too, just after a few generations. And sometimes this technology, by not upgrading it, it can actually cost you money. I had a friend who had an analog phone like the one on the left as late as 2008. And he started getting letters in the mail from the phone company saying that if he didn't change from his analog phone, that they're going to have to actually start charging him more than he's currently paying. And that was because it took so much effort for these old analog phones to work that the technology that they use for these new systems wouldn't even work with the phone. So they wanted to push everyone to these smartphones. Also, if you were a cell phone customer back in the 90s and you didn't look at your phone bill until now, you would notice that your phone bill no longer makes sense, right? You used to get charged 5 cents here for a text message, you know, and then you were also charged for your calls per minute, right? You had a certain allotted time. Now minutes are free, texts are free, right? So if you're on the old technology, your life would be completely different than now, and your cost would actually be exponentially higher. So I'm going to show you two companies right now, and the big world of difference, between these two companies from what they have set up from a payment perspective, and you can kind of see which side you might be on in this equation, and then I'm going to show you what you can do to kind of help yourself. So I'm going to have Acme Oil here and Victory Oil. Both of these companies were established in 1920, family-owned business, but the one here didn't make payment upgrades in the last few years, and we'll just say for the last 10 or 15. And then Victory Oil, established in the same exact time, but continues to invest in payment technology. So how has payment technology changed over the last few years? Well, for one, people used to have offices that looked like this, and I still have an office that looks like this, honestly. But so essentially, you'd have your customers in a filing cabinet. When it came to run their payments, again, you take that folder out there, you'd run those transactions, whether having the credit card numbers written down or whatnot, and then you had to manually enter them. And now you got email receipts, you got recurring payments, you have pre-authorizations now, where you're actually, you don't have to run these transactions twice. We have automatic reversals on authorizations. We have data ownership for token transfers, invoicing, customized reporting, the whole gamut. So a lot's changed in just a little bit of time here. Now, before I kind of show you how these two companies differ, I want to break down what are the pricing elements that actually make up credit card processing, okay? So the very first one and the most expensive one are interchange fees. This makes up 80% of your monthly statement. This is the interchange fees here typically range from around 5 basis points for a debit card all the way up to 2.8% for certain purchasing cards. And it also costs around 10 to 75 cents per transaction. So when we talk about utility rates, if someone hands you a MasterCard, if you're getting utility rates, the interchange fee on that utility rate is 75 cents. And so again, these interchange fees range quite a bit between Visa and MasterCard. And this is going to be important to remember, because I know a lot of you are thinking, hey, commodity prices have really increased the last year and a half. What can I do to insulate myself from these costs and these higher transaction fees? Well, the secret is actually in your interchange fees, and a good merchant processor can help you like an auditor. So that's to say an accountant. So just like an accountant can help me pay less taxes by putting my money in the right buckets and qualifying me for certain rebates and so forth, that's the exact same thing that a good processor can do with interchange fees. Most of you are getting utility rates for MasterCard, and you're getting the Visa services rates for Visa, and you're getting your Discover card utilities as well. But there are a lot of cards that fall outside these rates. Business cards are one of them, when you're accepting money from a Joe's business as opposed to Joe's personal credit card. And we'll break down how big this variance can be, but I just want to communicate that interchange fees brings up the largest expense for fuel marketers. The next are card brand, network, and assessment fees. These are what we call death and taxes. There's really nothing you can do about these. Whether you're with TSYS, Tiger, Avitas, QualPay, it doesn't matter. There's really nothing that you can do to lower these card brand, network, and assessment fees. If you're getting charged interchange plus or cost plus pricing, all of these fees are passed on from your merchant processor from the card brands directly to you without any markup at all. So everyone's on a level playing field here. And these are generally around 18 to 20 basis points. And you generally see these fees on the bottom of your statement. There's just line item after line item after line item acronyms and acronyms. Gateway fees are another one, and this is one that a type of fee that's actually become superfluous with new technology. Nowadays, you can work with a merchant provider that acts as a gateway, so you do not need to have your own gateway. And so if you're working with NMI or authorized.net, those are your gateways that connect to your merchant processors like a TSYS or an Avitas and so forth. But it is possible to remove these gateway fees completely from the equation. And there are a lot of companies that may have signed up for their route management software and they have an authorized.net account attached to XYZ merchant processor. And then they have their website portal speaking to another software. And they might have their membership management software connected to another one. And so you have all these different gateways that kind of add up. And nowadays, you only need one gateway account. And if you're actually connected to a merchant processor that's a combined gateway, you don't need a gateway at all. You can just use that one integrated platform for everything, to run your credit cards, to store your customers safely in your customer vault, and also run your ACH and eCheck transactions as well. And so gateway fees typically range from 5 cents to 15 cents per transaction, or about $10 to $30 monthly fees. And so, a merchant processing $15 million can see around $600, $500 a month in these type of gateway fees, all of which can be removed if you're working with the right processor. And then we got processor acquirer fees. This is the most common one that's quoted, the one that everybody knows, right? Hey, I'm at cost plus 40 basis points. I'm at cost plus 25 basis points or whatever. The processor acquirer fees, they're the ones that usually are listed on the top of your statement. And that's how the merchant processor keeps the light on. This is how merchants make money. People like Tiger, QualPay, Avitas, TSYS, all those kind of companies, the processor acquirer fees are what actually pays the bills. And they're the ones that are mostly negotiated on when you're talking about your rates. But you could have a high processor markup and very low interchange fees, and that would actually offset your cost completely. And I'll kind of show you how this works. So now we're just going to go line by line through these 4 categories real quick, and I'll show you how these fees can add up. So the easiest ways to lose money in terms of gateway fees, like I just said, were paying for multiple payment gateways. You don't need to do that. That can cost you $40 to $50 per month right there. Vaulting fees. This is a service that third-party gateways charge for because a third-party gateway can't make money on the processing side. So they're looking to nickel and dime. $10 to $20 a month can be the cost of these fees. Recurring payment fees. I actually see these in a lot of authorized.net and NMI statements. They're charging you, in addition to the 10-cent transaction fee that they charge, they're also charging you around 10 cents per a recurring payment fee. To me, that's double dipping and completely unnecessary. Then you have your terminal or virtual terminal fees, or if you got one of the, you may be working with a processor, maybe with something like ads where you have to use Smart Connect and manually enter some transactions and, on a little knuckle buster terminal or whatnot. Those terminals cost $5 a month, and those fees add up. So you can easily pay $10 to $20 a month right there as well. And so just between these 2 companies right now, if Victory Oil was using the one combined merchant account payment gateway solution instead of 2 different gateways or 3 different gateways, they could be averaging around $400 to $500 in monthly savings. And this is an example of a merchant doing $15 million a year. If you're doing $5 million a year, those savings are probably going to be, something around in the hundreds. And so the old way of doing business is having one gateway connecting to your website and then your merchant processor, or having your route management software connecting to a different payment gateway, which connects to a merchant processor. Things can get out of hand very quickly. Or you may have a POS terminal as well in the mix, and then that's talking to your merchant account. as well. But if you do things like Victory Oil, you can have your website, your route management software, and your POS all wrapped into one integrated payment solution. Less reporting, spend a little bit less time tracking, going after, finding your reporting and all your login information. You just get one login to all your accounts, all that report in one place, all those get emailed to one place. The next easy way to lose money as a merchant with interchange fees. Again, this is what I was talking about. This is 80% of your bill normally. So if you can make any of these changes, please do, because it's going to be a significant amount of money. And if you get a audit of your payment processing acceptance, we could help break down these fees and kind of show you how you're losing money right now. So no, qualifying for utility or MasterCard rates is the easiest way to lose money, because then you're talking about getting a default rate of 2 or 3% a transaction instead of that nice 65-cent or 75-cent fee from MasterCard. This can cost you as much as $10 per transaction. That's just a $400 transaction. So you fill up someone's gas or oil for $400. Boy, I wish it was $400 these days. I think I paid $953 the last time my oil was filled. So this transaction is probably a little bit larger these days. So the savings is actually a little bit larger. Now, qualifying for emerging market rates, same thing. It can be $6 to $10 a transaction. Not passing level 2 and level 3 data. This is the most common pitfall. So common that I'm going to break it down with another slide a little bit further. But level 2 and level 3 data is something that you need to collect when you're accepting a business card. So if I'm collecting John Gilbert's personal Visa card, that doesn't matter. That's going to get you're going to get your utility rates if you're qualifying for. But if I give you John Gilbert T-shirt shop Visa signature business card, those cards are much more expensive. They fall out of utility rates. And if you don't enter the right data in with this transaction, you're going to default to this much higher rate. That's up to 75 basis points more expensive. And the only way you can actually pass level 2 and level 3 data is by having a special type of software. And so I see generally around 50 to 65% of merchants do not have this type of technology, or if they do, they're getting some kind of surcharge for it. So 75 basis points, 80 basis points per transaction, that can be how much money you can lose on a given transaction. Just think about how much money that is. And then not running pre-authorizations properly. If you're not pre-authorizing at the right time, or if you're batching too late, those transactions can actually fall outside of utility rates. So one nice thing that for peace of mind is getting your statements audited. For one, a merchant processor is going to look to see if you're qualifying for these utility rates, for the emerging market rates, for level 2 and level 3. But we're also going to be able to see if your transactions are getting bumped out at this more expensive rate, because if you're closing out your transactions at the wrong time, you're not going to get your utility rates, because they have special rules for these rates. And so we can help educate you on what those rules are. So again, up to $10 a transaction right there. So I've seen merchants lose between 8 basis points and 65 basis points across from their whole portfolio. Imagine processing, $10 million a year and saving 65 basis points across your entire portfolio. That's $65,000 in savings. So the old way of doing things, that's not qualifying for utility rates, not qualifying for emerging market rates, downgrades on pre-auths, downgrades on commercial and business cards. And the new way is qualifying for all that same stuff that I just mentioned. And again, that savings can be very significant. And so here is a more broken down view of what not passing this data can look like to you. So this is a little bit of a confusing slide here, but if you're using Authorize.net or NMI to run your transactions, this is you're going to be getting the rate right over here for all these 4 types of cards. You don't need to remember this information. I'll blow this up in a further example, but the default rate for these business cards is 2.65 and 10 cents. But if you're getting this target interchange by entering this data that I spoke about, your rate drops to 1.9. And so that savings is 75 basis points. So every single time that you collect a business card for a customer for a $900 transaction, you're overspending by nearly $7. That's a hoagie sandwich right there. Every single time that you're filling up someone's gas or oil, it's crazy. And like I said, many merchants are falling down on this step here and getting overcharged. So here's a blown up example of how this could kind of look. So if I handed you a Visa business card, so that's not my personal card, that's my business's card right here. If you are not set up properly, your rate is going to be 2.65 and 10 cents. But if you are set up properly to accept level 2 data, that's putting in invoice numbers, sales tax information, along with this, the receipts, that's a difference of 75 basis points, $6.75 per transaction. And here's one that's really going to blow your mind right here. You're talking about higher commodity prices. So if your average ticket went from $600 to $800 this last quarter, here's an even larger example right here. MasterCard business cards. If you're not set up properly, you're going to get a rate of 2.05 and 10 cents. If you're set up properly, it's a flat fee of $1.50. That actual savings on a $900 transaction is nearly $17. Every single time a business hands you a business card for a $900 transaction, you could be overpaying by $17. And when we go looking through your statements on an audit, what we'll do is we'll take all of the interchange charges and we'll put them on the left-hand category, on this left-handed side right here. So you're seeing merit, 3 debit, and so forth. And if there is a better rate to put them in through modern technology, we write this right here. So this particular merchant saved $3,000 in 1 month just by us qualifying their rates to a lower rate by accepting those level 2 and level 3 data with the transactions. Pretty big stuff here. So again, when you're talking about the processor markup, you might be able to shave 5 basis points off your rates by negotiating a little bit better, but I'm talking about 65 basis points across all your volume by weight by doing this correctly. So this is what we'll pull from your statement. If there's a better rate right here, we'll put it on the right-hand corner. And I'll just kind of blow this up a little bit better. Again, pretty similar numbers here, 2.65 to 1.9. Life's better on the right side here, 2.7 versus 1.9. These rates are a huge difference. And as you can see here, once you start running transactions, this particular merchant did $8,000 in transactions on these Visa cards here. They saved nearly $65 by switching over to a provider that could do that level 2 and level 3 data. So wrong side, right side. And this is why the rates cost you a little bit more money for business cards. So some of these gateways like Authorize.net and NMI, they had their integrations that were done about 15 years ago. And when you used to deliver fuel to them, the businesses that you delivered fuel to used to just give you a check. But now those businesses have business cards. And well, the car brands have certain rules for the data that they want to accept. But if you're using an old integration with your old gateway, that data can't get sent to the card brands. And so once that transaction hits Visa, MasterCard, Discover, this is how you get the actual card brand downgrade as opposed to the target interchange. When you're handed that Visa signature card and you're using an older gateway, it's going to default to this lower rate or the higher rates, sorry, because you're not passing enough data. So it's like the Visa is looking for certain information, it doesn't receive it, this question mark appears, and all of a sudden you're starting to get downgraded. And again, very easy to point this out on a merchant statement. We know all of the possible rates that you can have by heart. So if we see that you're not getting a good rate, we're going to make that change and show you what life's like on the other side. Processor acquirer fees. So this is the one that I spoke to you about before. This is one that you actually can negotiate for pretty well. PCI fees. I see a lot of merchant providers that they don't want to deal with PCI, so they just charge people a $50 non-compliance fee. You know, on top of it, they may actually charge them a compliance fee as well, which is double dipping in my opinion. But that could be anywhere between $10 and $50 per month per mid, and that's a merchant ID. Statement fees, those can be $10 to $30 a month. Again, the whole idea that you need multiple merchant accounts in order to connect to different software is no longer true. You can actually use one merchant account and connect them to different parts of your the softwares that you connect to. So a lot of merchants will come to us and they may have 6 to 10 merchant accounts and 10 gateway accounts. And when they come on board to QualPay, we're able to clean up their accounts, bring in all their customers, and make all that information available through one easy to use provider. Interchange markup is another one. Again, that varies per merchant. Generally, the bigger merchant you are, the lower your markup is. So, but you know, there are a lot of merchant providers that say, hey, I can take 10 basis points off, I can take 5 off. What really matters are those interchange fees that I was talking about. These do not have as large of an impact over overall bill, but it can still add up. And then there are also hidden fees. If you're with TSYS, you might have been hit with a 4 basis points kilobyte fee. So you know, look at your statement, especially from this last year. On the bottom of it, it should say kilobyte assessment fee, and they're probably charging you 4 basis points across your entire volume. That is a BS charge. Do not put up with that stuff. There's no reason for them to be charging you for this. Another thing that I've seen on some TSYS statements as well is what's called a settlement fee. And that could be as much as 45 basis points and 25 cents. I just reviewed some statements this month for a member of the Ideal Cooperative. They were getting charged 4 basis points of a hidden fee from TSYS and also a settlement fee of 45 basis points and 25 cents. That amounted to $3,000 a month in overbilling. So just to add things up here to these examples that we walk through, there's a lot of unnecessary costs of doing business for this company that just wanted to do things the old way. Okay, so they could be paying up to $500 a month in gateway fees. They could be not saving 60 basis points on their interchange fees by not doing this level 2, level 3 stuff, or hitting the target interchange with your utility rates and so forth. The processor fees, if they didn't negotiate those well enough, they could be getting some of these hidden fees like this 4 basis points kilobyte fee. And so the annual savings can be about, you know, $8,000 to $14,000, but generally I like to break this down in basis points. You know, if you're a merchant that it really depends on what your health is coming in, but you know, if you're not qualifying for utility rates, obviously the savings are going to be bigger. If you're accepting a lot of business card transactions, those savings are going to be larger as well. But I highly recommend getting an audit, sending your statements in, and just seeing what life could be like on the other side, because aside from the lower cost, you actually might be able to you know, streamline your operational efficiencies as well. So what's life like on the other side? Well, having a combined merchant account and payment gateway will give you better reconciliation reporting. You don't have to have your office manager kind of chasing after receipts and email receipts and trying to add everything up. This can be done automatically here. You can get all your statements in one place. Data ownership is another thing. When you store your customers in authorize.net or in NMI, you need to pay them in order to get them out. And sometimes providers may actually prevent you from getting those customers out. If you work with a provider like us, that data is yours and yours forever. So if you ever want to leave companies and take all your customer vault customers with you, you can do that. We can also help you take your customers from authorize.net or NMI and bring them into QualPay, and that's a service that we provide for you. You just have to pay a fee with the gateway that you work with. So with authorize.net, it's a $250 fee, and then they give us the file, we upload them, and so the next day when you want to run your payments, it's like nothing happened, and it's just a clean cut over. All the new customers are in your vaults to be used for all your recurring payments. No recurring payments missed. And then you can get all your solutions through one interface. If you're doing e-checks, payment gateway, credit cards, you can get that all under one roof. Save you some money as well, and some good support. So that's it. That's my presentation right now. And so I just wanted to give you a couple of quick updates as well. Now that it's spring, there's going to be a couple of differences here with the rates you're going to be paying. So if you're doing pre-authing, MasterCard has a 3-day window to qualify for utility rates. It's 3 days on MasterCard and 7 days on Visa card. So if you're doing pre-auths, make sure you run those transactions at those times, because if you run those transactions outside it, you're going to fall outside of utility rates. And Visa consumer credit card rates for fuel markers are going to be going up by about 10 basis points on average. And MasterCard is increasing consumer rewards, and consumer enhanced utility rates by 10 cents. So we disclose all those fees on behalf of the card brands every quarter. So if you want to get some email updates on that stuff, just let us know and we can put you on that email list. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, John. Appreciate it. Just a reminder, sure. I know we had some people that joined a little late. If you have any questions for John, please use the question feature and go to webinar, and we can run through them now. We haven't gotten any in, but I do want to just, I guess, talk about our experience very briefly from an association perspective. Obviously, our volume, as it relates to the association, is probably smaller than all of our members here on the phone or on this webinar. But we went through this process, and as what John was describing, we had 3 different merchant accounts and gateways set up that were kind of pieced together from a progression perspective with the various websites that we run and entities that we operate. And we went through this process of combining it all. Obviously, QualPay is a solution for this. There's other companies that can do this as well, but it is being on the other side of this and having one condensed platform for all these payments to date has made everything much cleaner on our end, as internally for everything that we do. So I just want to thank John and the team at QualPay for that experience. It was definitely beneficial. And one thing that I will just reiterate, we did this initially with QualPay. We provided all of our statements, gave that to John and his team, and they just did an analysis in the sense of these are opportunities where you could or couldn't look at opportunities to save. I know some other members have done this as well. Some members have stick with their current provider that they've had. They just at least understood where they were at. And some of them, ultimately made a change because of that. But that is John is offering that as completely free exercise if it's something you want to at least understand where you are today and look at, potential opportunities in that regard. So I encourage you, if that's something you're considering, use someone that's an industry expert such as QualPay to help you out with at least making that initial step. So, John, we haven't gotten any questions, so that means you did a great job. And we are going to record this, and this is going to go on our YouTube page. We'll also share John, if you don't mind, can we share this presentation with anyone that wants to see it?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So we'll follow up with that information in the next 24 hours as it relates to the recording and the copy of the presentation. Again, we do run this monthly webinar series the first Tuesday of every month. We have a schedule up for the majority of the next 5 to 6 months, and you can see that on our website. So please check that out. John, any parting comments before we conclude?
No, I'd like to say take advantage of the cost savings analysis audit, and it's completely completely free. Learn something, take something back and learn how you can fix it. But also feel free to ask me any questions. I'll also be at Eastern Energy. I'll be at NPGA, and I'll be at the PPA event this fall as well. We're out there at all the events, so stop by and say hi.
Awesome. All right. Well, John, thank you again for your expertise on the topic, and thank you all for joining us this morning, and I hope everyone has a good rest of the day. Take care.
Thank you.